Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about discrimination in Korea. And if you're wondering, how do people get away with discrimination in Korea? Aren't there laws against it? Well, the Constitution says that there should be equality for everybody, but there aren't any laws that enforce it. So yeah, the Constitution says yeah, everybody should have equality, it should be all kumbaya, but if you discriminate, ain't nobody gonna check you on it. So that's the problem. So what kind of discrimination can you face in Korea? All sorts. You know, if somebody just wants to block you from service, say nope, you can't come in here, nope, we're not going to do this for you, or I hate you, or say just racist stuff against you, or deny you promotion, fire you, anything, any single thing. They don't like you, they want to abuse you, they want to use anything against you, any single thing. There's no mechanism legally to enforce any kind of recompense, because there's nothing in the law books that have any kind of teeth on discrimination. Yeah, the Constitution says that, the country should guarantee it, but the country hasn't done anything to guarantee it. And so that is why there is, again, an anti-discrimination bill in the National Assembly that activists are trying to get passed in this next session of the National Assembly. And this time, there has been a lot more heat associated with the activist part. In 2003, that's when the bill was being drafted in earnest. So that is the birth of this bill. If we're talking about the history, the first time it actually got into the National Assembly as an actual format was 2007. But each time it went in, it just sat there and it never got in any kind of conference. So when a bill gets into the National Assembly, that is a good accomplishment, but for it to get anywhere, it has to be assigned to a committee, and then the committee starts to debate it and then negotiate, and then after it has legs, it goes to the full assembly for a vote, and then if it gets passed, it gets turned into a law. But it didn't even get past the first step. It just kind of got ignored. Why? Because there's been a lot of opposition by, they call it conservative Christian groups mainly, but I call them cults. And out of all the groups, I would say so-called Christian groups are the last that should protest against discrimination. By its very nature, Christian groups, Protestant groups, came into existence because of discrimination. They were discriminated against. They were religiously persecuted. That's why they became Christians, so that they could have a direct connection to God, and that they were being denied by the Catholic Church. And so they wanted to directly communicate with God, directly read the Bible, and they were being killed because of it. And so that was intense discrimination that they even had to flee their home country and go to other countries for. Why would you then oppose protecting against discrimination? That to me means that these so-called Christians, because I don't think they are actual real Christians, because if they were, they would be directly communicating to God. And instead, I don't think they've been communicating to God. I think they've been communicating to the resident downstairs instead. Because you see these people who are launching these scary campaigns, and you don't see goodness out of them. You don't see any kind of, light of the Holy Spirit. No, you see the opposite. You see a lot of the sinful devil nature and hate and envy and jealousy and a lot of all of the things that you're not supposed to do in the Bible if they actually read it. Read the Bible. So I think mainly they are the cults of Korea who are doing this activism. Now, in the history of this anti-discrimination bill, in the session, I believe, 2013, that's when the liberals really pushed for it, and they had like 50 sponsors of the bill, and it included Moon Jae-in, and they were really like publicly gung-ho about it. But then that's when the cults really then also were scared. They were like, oh my gosh, this might actually pass. And then that's when they really intensified their campaign against it, almost like I would say to the point of terrorism. They went to the assembly members, the politicians' personal houses and rallied outside and yelled and screamed, and all of the neighbors were like, did you do something wrong? Like, Mr. Politician, like, what's going on? Like, all these people are saying like, you're an evil man or something like that. And so all these politicians started backing off and even publicly started to denounce their support for protecting minority groups against discrimination. Even Moon Jae-in, during a presidential debate, it became an Achilles heel. And so they were really scared off. And why? They are saying that a lot of these smaller districts for the National Assembly are won by 1,000, 2,000 votes. So presumably one big church could swing an election. So that's why they got scared, that like they're saying like, hey, we're from this church, like if you don't agree with our stance, you're gonna lose your seat. And so that type of political terrorism by these cults became effective, and they figured that out in that 2013 era, and they just kept going at it over and over and over again. However, now in 2022, it looks like the tides have shifted. There have been recent opinion polls that show that the majority of the Korean public feel that there is a need for this anti-discrimination bill. One recent survey said over 67% of the Korean public feels that this should pass. Another said 57%. One Human Rights Watch survey said 9 out of 10 Koreans. So a lot of surveys are saying that the majority believes that we need an anti-discrimination bill. Even one of the cults believe it, because discrimination really is one of those things that you never really feel like you care about until it happens to you. And one of these cults, the Shincheonji cult based in Daegu, that was one of the original outbreaks of the whole, the COVID. And early on, they were cited as one of the epicenters of the outbreaks in Korea, and they were discriminated against. People were just like, ooh. And apparently when they were surveyed, the people of this cult, they're like, hey, we feel discriminated against. I think we also, should have legal protections against being discriminated against, because everyone was like, not you, stay away. But I think there was more to it than, spreading the virus. I think it was more about like, y'all are in a crazy cult. So there is some progress. A couple weeks ago, there was supposed to be some debate formally in the National Assembly, but the two parties couldn't agree, so that got tabled, and that made the activists upset. They've been doing a month-long hunger strike, and they've gotten really serious, and they have been rallying outside the National Assembly, drawing attention. They have even enlisted the support of Korea's main and first, I believe, transgender celebrity, Harisu. She's a singer and she looks like real good. She is a very prominent and real big social activist and, entertainer. And she has been really active in this campaign, and apparently she has gone to the National Assembly, and as of the recording of this video, she's meeting with people in the National Assembly to help push this forward. So this Anti-Discrimination Act contains content that prohibits unreasonable discrimination against various identities such as age, country of origin, gender, sexual orientation, military history, race, skin color, and region of origin. All these things, people are just like, I want to, And Korean people, they will want to weaponize anything to get an advantage over you. So sometimes it could be about discrimination, but usually it's, trying to weaponize things so that they can kind of like get ahead of just cheap shots, really. And that's why you have idiots like managing, put in positions of management, and then you weaken your economy. Okay, so even if you don't want to look at this as kind of like a social justice issue, this is a weakening of our GDP issue. Okay, because how many times have you seen people just want to what? As long as we don't have, speaking of those idiot managers, if we do not get this anti-discrimination bill passed and discrimination is legal, why not just discriminate against them too? Because people don't think that they're gonna be the ones discriminated against. They always think that, it might suck for you, but hello. No. People, what did I say about Korean people? And what did I say about sly Korean people? What did I say about Korean people who can stab you in the back and you don't even know that there's a knife in your back and you don't even know who did it? And what did I say about leverage in Korean society? You need leverage going in anywhere to get any kind of negotiation done. This is what I think in the National Assembly these people need to know. Is that if this bill does not pass, and if it is legal to continue to discriminate, then I think that we should be able to continue to discriminate against everybody then, including the National Assembly members and probably their family. So we should create a list of the National Assembly members and their families and all the people who are upset that this didn't pass. There are business owners. There are people who work in the government, media, everywhere. Discriminate against them. Do whatever that means to you in terms of discrimination. Deny them service. Deny. Yeah. Why? Because you know what? Even President Park Geun-hye did it. She made a blacklist of artists and people who just signed a petition. She tracked down their names and made sure that they were blocked from government funds and grants for arts programs if the ministries could help it. So if the president can do it, then why not everybody? If there's no law still. And she got a front row seat at the inauguration of the new president. So hey, why not? And isn't forgiveness so great? Also, just a word on discrimination and why people want it so badly. Why do they hide themselves under this cloak of religiosity when they don't even read the Bible, when they don't even really have the spirit of God and Christ in them, and they are spewing this hatred under the cloak of pretending to be religious, and they think they're in a church, but they're actually in a cult. They think they are honoring Jesus, but they're actually worshiping an idol, their cult leader. A lot of the times, people are trying to do this in order to slow down the world and to slow down change. That is the appeal of cults. And part of that is creating an identity for yourself. You basically do not know who you are. These people who go out to these like rallies and like try to hate on other people, they're doing it because they don't know who they are, and at least what they can do is form something of a semblance of an identity by at least hating something that is outside of themselves, or so they think. And the appeal of a cult is basically an old style of a social organization where there is a hierarchy, organized rules, and the world slows down in that environment as if it was an old agrarian culture. If you want to know more about it, read Alvin Toffler's Future Shock. This guy wrote it like in the 1960s, and he predicted it. He made these predictions, and it's coming true. He's essentially saying, like, you know, the pace of change and technology is going to freak people out, and one of the ways that the people who can't cope are going to try to cope are to turn to cults, because he started seeing that happen. And you know, cults has been around forever, and what he found that was like a trait of people who joined these cults is that they can't handle the change in the world, so they want to try to stop it by then going into a cult and then try to make the outside world match the inside world of this dysfunctional, crazy world. But to them, it gives them comfort. So speaking of the word, the good word from the good book that these cult people probably never read, or if they read a corrupted version. Let's try to bring some goodness that actually matches more the side of the people supporting the anti-discrimination bill than the people opposing it. I turn to the book of Peter. So put aside every trace of malice, and all deceit and hypocrisy, and envy, and all slander, and hateful speech. Like newborn babies, long for the pure milk of the word, so that by it you may be nurtured and grow in respect to salvation, if in fact you have already tasted the goodness and gracious kindness of the Lord. Now, does that sound anything like the speech of all the people using their cult terrorism to try to deny equality to people in this world, in this country? I think people should think about that a little bit more. What do you guys think? Put your comments below, and remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye, guys.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.